Hello everybody, my name is Cythe, and in today's video we're going to be talking about why playing Evil Dead as Demon isn't fun anymore, and my suggestion as to how to fix it. A lot of you may not know who I am. I'm Cythe. I'm a Twitch streamer. I stream Evil Dead, and I'm a Demon main, and I've been playing Evil Dead since the day it came out. That's actually the day I started streaming, was the day Evil Dead came out. I kind of really attached to this game. I love this game. I love the community. I love the people I've met along the way and the moments that I've had. But unfortunately, in the last month or so, I haven't really played a whole lot of Evil Dead because it just hasn't been fun. And it's weird. I've been taking a lot of time to stop and think about it. Like, why has it suddenly not become fun? And what would I do to change that? And before any of the, Reddit warriors, any survivor mains get into my comment section and say, well, you just need to get good, or, now that you're not winning all the time, it's not fun. Two things to that. One, I am good at playing Demon. I've been pretty good at it the whole time. I don't think that I'm the best in the world. I don't think I'm perfect, but I'm above the bell curve. I win more games than I lose, and I still do. Before I took my break from playing, after all of this stuff came in, the last 6 games I played, I won 5 of them. 3 as Necromancer, 1 as Puppeteer, 1 as Warlord, and funnily enough, my loss was as Plaguebringer, which is regarded right now as the strongest demon and the only demon worth playing by a lot of demon mains. But I got slapped so bad in that game that it was against a pre-made team of 4 good survivors, that they all stood around at the book and let me kill the book, so technically I won that game, but really I lost that game. I lost that game bad. Which is fine. I don't mind losing games, is my point. I don't mind losing. It's not about winning and losing is what makes it fun for the game. What's fun for the game is fun factor, being able to play. And so what I mean by that, and what the problem boils down to, is that in order for survivors to play efficiently, they have to not let the demon play the game. It has to be not fun for the demon. And that's not the survivor's fault. I'm not blaming anybody who's playing the game well or efficiently. It's just the way the game is kind of set up and kind of forced them to be. Because there's no way for the demon to switch it up and to outplay a lot of the mechanics that the survivors have to win, to avoid, taking damage, to not let the demon do anything at all. There's no ways for the demon to play around that or outplay that. And I want to explain that for a second, because I'm going to use those terms a lot as I describe the problems in the video. What do I mean by outplay or play around? In most games that involve any kind of strategy, there's more than one way to approach the problem, which will then force the opposing side to switch up how they're going to defend against that. And that's very common in any game involving strategy, from card games to board games to computer games. Like, for example, in real-time strategies, they come at you with a whole bunch of one kind of unit, and it's going to wreck you really bad. But so you have to build this one specific kind of unit that counters that unit really well. And then they go into that. Well, then they come with this other kind that you didn't have to, and then you counterattack with this other thing, and then they have to, it's like there's a lot of different strategies and different ways to go about it, and there's a lot of terms for a lot of these tactics and strategies in these games. Well, then you're saying to yourself, well, yeah, but Evil Dead's not really a strategy game. Yes, but it's pitting people against people, and there is strategy involved. It's an asymmetrical horror game, and there are strategies involved in those, and I'm going to use the big one, the one that Evil Dead gets compared to the most, which is Dead by Daylight, as an example. This game isn't Dead by Daylight. There's a lot of differences between it, but it's just the easiest parallel. In Dead by Daylight, when you're playing as a killer, there's all kinds of different killers to choose from, but even in those killers, there's different ways to play them depending on what perks that you give them. And that implies different strategies that you put forward, that you give the survivors a problem that they then have to play a different way against them. There's different ways that you have to play against each killer, but then there's also different ways to play against how they're loaded out. Like if I'm playing someone who has a lot of totems, well then people have to go and deal with the totems. If I'm playing against, if I play a lot of gen regression, if I play slugging, if I play camping and tunneling, like if I'm trying to like really push one person out of the game as quick as possible. If someone's getting basement camped, people know how to deal with that. You got to go rush the gens and say, sorry about your luck, that guy's dead, but the killer's going to lose because you're going to pop all the gens while he's just standing there doing nothing. There's different strategies and different ways to counter it as the both sides, and that should be the case in Evil Dead, and it's not nearly as much. For the most part, you can play the same way against almost every demon with little variations. Again, with against Puppeteer, it's a little bit more important to group up. It used to be that against the Warlord, you had to rush them. You had to go as fast as possible to not let them get any experience. But that's not the case because they nerfed the damage that she deals to the book. Which was that problem, which was like she put a timer on your game. She doesn't anymore. So let's get into what all the things that the survivor has that's preventing, and all the things in each level of the game, the early, the mid, and the late, that are causing the demon to not be able to play the game. They have all of these tools that they have that causes a very frustrating gaming experience for the demon. And let me also state that I don't believe that every single one of these should be nerfed or addressed in some way, but some of them should. So I'm gonna talk about all of them to show you that there's an overwhelming amount of things that all come together for a not fun experience for the demon. And then at the end we'll talk about different ways to change them. And for a lot of you that play this game, especially as demons, you already know the things I'm about to talk about. So if you just want to skip the solutions, I'll try to break this up into chapters. That way you can do that if you want. But right now we're going to talk about what I feel are problem areas and what makes it not fun for the demon. So the game is kind of broken up into 3 stages. There's the early game, which is getting the map pieces. There's the mid game, which is the blue objectives. And there's the end game, which is Dark Ones and the book. So in the early game, the demon has one of 3 choices. You can either rush, try to find them as fast as possible, and start engaging them. You can stop, you can trap to gain some threat first, to gain a few levels, and then go after them. Or you can flip all the cars and take forever and get after them. All 3 of these aren't great. If you rush after them, which is the one I tend to do, which is find them as fast as possible, you can start getting some threat and start pressuring them a little bit early, but they have too many tools to just not care about that. If you stop and trap, you're running around grabbing these orbs, trapping, grabbing orbs, trapping. You're not really playing the game. You're just kind of like, oh, well, I need to gain some threat, otherwise I'm not going to be able to do anything. And that's not very fun, and it's really not fun to go around and flip cars over and over again, which a lot of like very successful demon mans have said you have to do this in order to be able to win or to even play. Like that became a thing, which was go find the cars, and then you had to like perfect how to do the reverse donut to flip it or put it up on the exact right piece of terrain to high center it, and that is ridiculous and frustrating. And then they would go like 7 minutes into the game, and that was an expression that a lot of them used. Well, I guess I get to play the game now. 7 minutes in, and already we're off to a bad start there. So whenever I do get to the survivors and I'm engaging them in the early game, there's just too many things to make me a joke at this point. The first one I'm going to talk about is the energy debuff that we got, the demons we got quite a few patches ago. Now, for those of you that don't know, MMR has been in the game for a long time, but they recently changed how MMR worked, and now it's like way more balanced to where you're going to face people around your skill level a lot more, which is one of the things. But when that happened, because it was so late that happened, it basically derailed every balance patch that happened before this, because all of those patches happened whenever people were just playing whoever. You know, they weren't playing against people of equal skill. So, like, for instance, there was one that happened that was preventing people from getting rushed down in the early game, and that did need to happen, which was they tripled the amount of energy it took to possess a unit, and really increased how much energy it took to be in a unit, especially elites. And at that point, all elites became worthless in the early game. Like, you had to be level 10, 15, you know, in that range in order to even start using elites effectively anymore. So it's the early game is for every demon is basically the same. Lace and traps. Hopefully they walk into the traps, possess the basic that comes out of that trap. Or if you might get lucky, an RNG might actually spawn some units around the enemy that you can use. But even then, you'd be like I don't know how many times I'm like, man, can I get a unit around here? But even when you do get into those units, all they have to do is just run. They just hold W and run away from you, and you can't get them in time because your energy is flying down so fast, and then you just crumble apart, and then you have to run around playing Pac-Man, picking up energy pellets to get high enough to be able to do this again. And if they can't run, then they can vault something, whether it be a rail or a window, over and over again, and they just run loops. And then if you do get to them and you are finally able to swing at them, well, they just dodge, which is a button that they push that makes them invincible. Or they can just get into a car immediately, because they're around the demon. There's no point in not getting in a car. And how fast people can get into cars is my biggest pet peeve in this game. And then you just away, and there's nothing that the demon can do about that. There's no counterplay, because then you have to release whatever unit you're in and then try and chase after it, except you can't chase after it because the cars are faster than you. And then single people can keep the demon occupied for a long time. All of these things together make it very frustrating to play the demon in the early game. In the mid game, in the mid game, we have situations where they're forced to be in an area, right? Now they can't run anymore. Let's fight. Except we're not. It's then we run into the other problem, which is there's two strategies that survivors use that demons don't have a way to. Again, there's nothing that demons can really do about that. Now there's the dog pile, death ball, stunlock thing that is the most common, that most of you know about, which is all melee people all run in anytime anything turns red, that we know that the demon is possessing them. They just run up and beat the hell out of that thing. And your balance bar flies away. You get stunned. You get the stars spinning around. You go like this. Then whenever it wears off, then you have to get up and you do this kind of reset animation where you shake your head and you come, and then you're like, okay, now my weapons are ready. Meanwhile, the whole time you've had those stars, or the whole time you're doing this stupid reset animation, they're still just beating on you and your health bar's flying down, and you might maybe get one swing off or one move off before you're stunned again and you do it all over again. And there's no counterplay to that. You don't get to... So, like, you would think that whenever people are grouped up and dogpiling on you, that elites would shine at this point, because all elites and so a lot of the bosses have, and even some of the basics, have AoE moves that hit multiple survivors. And in most games, that would be the way to go. Hitting multiple people is a good thing. That's great. In Evil Dead, however, it's not. It doesn't do anything. You have to really focus on one person and get them down. If you spread your damage out, you lose, because all the healing in the game that the supports do is area of effect healing. Whether it be a shimps, the shimps that they drink, that a support drinks, everybody in a bubble gets all of the healing from that. And even the things like Ash's alternative healing and Annie's thing she puts on the ground heals multiple people. So AoEs are worthless. That feels bad, because AoEs are very satisfying whenever you get them to work. And then for most people, they say, well, as soon as you get stunned, you have to release and then go get into something else. Releasing kills whatever unit that it's in, so they don't have to sit there and keep hitting it anymore. They can just immediately stop and turn and then dogpile the next guy. So that sucks. Okay, well, what if they don't? What if they're not a death ball? What if they have hunters in the group? What if they split push you? Well, then they still have tools to cause you not to be able to play, which one thing that we could like to call F-chaining or finisher spamming, which is you hit something, their balance bar goes down, and you immediately go into a finisher. And a finisher causes a badass animation, which I think should be in the game, and it makes you invincible, and it should, because if you got hit for doing finishers, nobody would ever do them, and the finishers are cool, they're fun, they're awesome, right? The problem is that how quickly they're able to spam them. They could just go smack, F, and then something else comes, smack, F, whatever. In the meantime, you're standing there with your boss. I don't know how many times the Evil Ash I've run up to somebody and go, okay, no, it's cool. You finish doing your epic animation. You wind up. Okay, there goes the head. All right, cool. Now I go to swing, and I try to time that swing for whenever it ends, and they just dodge immediately afterwards. There's nothing I can do. And then they're running. Then they dodge. They run to another guy, and they smack him, and then they'll lock themselves in more animations. For a lot of people, they say that possessing survivors is probably the best way to do it. I am personally bad at taking advantage of possessed survivors, but even whenever you're in, whenever the times where I do go to do that, they've just dropped their weapon anyways. Or they, as soon as they get scared, they drop their weapon, and then they sit and wait. And they go, do you possess someone else? I pick up my weapon, and I go deal with that. Or if you possess me, oh, haha, I've got no weapons, so there's nothing you can do. You're just going to waste all your energy. And the demons don't have a way to counterplay that. They're doing something where they're counterplaying the tactic of possession, but we have no option to do anything about that. And then between the objectives, so there's 2 blue objectives. You get banished, right? So one objective finished, you get banished to the other objective. And now what? What do? Do you stop and trap everything and let them loot and get all the resources back that they just had to spend whooping your ass? Or do you rush after them? If you rush after them and try to put pressure on them, boom, they're in a car, or probably at this point multiple cars, and they're off to the other one. Okay, well, what if you try to intercept them? I try to do this all the time, where I see where the car is going, I go on the road, I try to intercept it. I can't lay traps wherever I want, otherwise this would be a decent strategy, where I possess the car. It doesn't matter, because they can immediately smack the car, or they dodge into the car, or they surround the car and they just stand by it and just wait for you to run out of energy, because the car doesn't do any damage to them, and they just kind of just stand there and then smack the car a couple times and then get in it and go. That's frustrating. All of these things I'm talking about are all things that are not letting the demon play, right? I'm spending my whole time running after you, or watching you vault through things, or being stunned, or releasing and then going and being stunned. I'm not getting to play, or waiting for you to finish an F chain. I'm just standing. There's so many of these things where it's just, I'm either just running after you or just standing there, not getting to do anything. And these, I can't blame the survivors for that. These are the strategies that they need, right? So then we get to the end game, and man, I hate the end game for Evil Dead. So you get banished again, and at this point, you don't have the other option. You can't stop and trap, because there's only one spot where Dark Ones spawn that has any traps anywhere in a relevant position to it, and that's at Fishing Village. Everywhere else, it's a barren wasteland. There's no traps anywhere around it, so you can't defend it. You can't stop and defend it, so you have to try and go and intercept them, which doesn't work. They have 3 cars at that point, where even if you do possess one, they kick out, their buddies come back and get them, and they're able to get into it immediately and go on, and you have to, it's just, it's frustrating. The Dark Ones themselves are a joke, so and they can be soloed, which is stupid, because it allows for, so you got one person who doesn't really need any gear or whatever, a warrior or whatever, to just go straight to the Dark Ones and start them. And while everybody else is gathering up, if they needed any more shimps or ammo or whatever else, they can stop and loot. They've got cars nearby, so they're not worried about, getting bogged down by the demon. If he takes one car, that means that's your cue to go get into the other car and leave. And then one person can solo the Dark Ones, because all you have to do is tap left and right over and over again to avoid all the fireballs and then dodge the big AoE. And so I've seen this happen where just one person will just go and just do everything they need to and get the Dark Ones all the way down to 99 and wait forever, or, that one last little sliver. Or say the demon actually did catch someone by themselves, or did get them out, or there was some kind of miscue, and you finally are beating someone down. Well, fuck it, they'll just start it. And then now it's like, oh, well, I can't finish doing this stuff. Now I have 2 minutes to go kill the book, so I have to leave. If they are all together and you do get on the book phase and you start summoning stuff, all that stuff dies immediately. Like that moment when they're all coming out of the portal, one swing from a warrior kills all of them all at once, unless it's an elite. And then the elite is they just get in the way and they dogpile on that. And at that point, you're still not playing, because at that point, as the demon, you're trying to beat down an inanimate object. You're not actually fighting the survivors at that point. And that's frustrating for both ends. Every time the demon wins by killing the book, which is the majority of the wins that people get now, that leaves a bad taste in both sides' mouth, because the demon had to. It's a hollow victory beating up an inanimate object, and then the survivors are like, this is bullshit. We played a great game the whole time and we lost because he can beat up a book. He didn't kill us, he killed the book. It feels bad. So all of these things, whenever you combine them all together, lead for a very frustrating and not fun experience for the demon. The survivor is still having a good time because they've got all of these things that you're getting loot, you're upgrading in the middle of it. You're like, oh my god, oh yeah, I got my badass weapon, and now I'm doing these fighting and against all the AI and doing finishers, and you feel like you're progressing your objective, and you're doing fun stuff that you feel skilled because you're able to dodge at the right time and run and do the right tactics and things like that, and it feels good, and it should. And I'm not saying that all of these things should be taken away. I think I already talked about that. I'm not saying that all of these things should be taken away. That would be dumb. I'm not saying that every single one of these aspects of the survivor should be nerfed, but some of them should be looked at. Now, I have some solutions here. We're going to talk about some of my solutions, and again, I'm going to say not all of them should be implemented. This is just some of them, and not all of them are even practical. I'm not a game dev. I don't know how hard some of these things would be to put into the game. Some of them are going to be really simple ones. Some of them are going to be like fantastical things that I know there's no way in a million years is going to get put into the game, because that would be too hard to program. But it'd be cool if it did. So let's talk about them, and we'll go through all of these things. The early game, probably the simplest one would be going back to those early nerfs that they did, and either not necessarily reverting them all the way, because that would probably be too much of a flip in the other direction, but maybe easing them back a little bit, making it a little bit cheaper to possess, and especially cheaper to... The big one is the amount of energy drain per second while staying in the units. If they just reduce that down a little bit, especially for the elites, to make them a little bit more of a viable choice, to where we had more options to actually play against the survivors, that'd be good. That way, just holding W the whole time wouldn't be an instant getaway or dodging. Like we had some time to be in a unit would be the big one. And forcing us to have to wait until we get to possession 3 to be able to stay in something possessed for any amount of time is ridiculous. I hated whenever they came up with those nerfs that forced us to go into possession. because I hate being forced to. You have to, as the demon, take possession on the levels that you can get them at levels 6, 8, and 10, and then on, in order to be able to play the game. And that's stupid that you are forced to use your points in a particular way. I think that's ridiculous. I wish that would be taken out of the game, because before those nerfs got introduced and those changes to the possession was like one of the last things that I leveled up before that as a demon. I leveled up my traps, I leveled up my the basic portal elite, portal boss, all that stuff before I ever leveled up possession. And now I can't do that. I'm forced to level up possession at the moment that I can get them, because of how much energy it takes to be in a possessed unit. And I wish they would do away with that. And I wish they would make it longer for people to get into cars. I've been preaching about this one for a long time. How quickly a survivor can just get into a car and escape is ridiculous. How quickly they can just from any angle at the car, they just have to hold the button. There's a short charge time. They're in it and they're out, and honking their horn on the way. Some people say that, like, hey, there should be like a hot wire mechanic. Like, there should be something you have to be able to do. Cars should be limited use. Cars should have gas. You should only be able to get in the cars at the doors. All those sound good in theory, but they're not practical. I think a big solution would be just make it to where that charge time to get in the cars takes longer. That way the demon has some time to be able to hit them and outplay that, to counterplay that, to where a one person that's caught on their own because they're cocky or their team wasn't communicating or whatever, that they get punished for that. It's 4 versus 1. So if that one is only against one, I should be 4 times as strong. Like, I should be able to just destroy someone who's by themselves. It should take your full team, or at least 2. You say you have 2 people, you both take a minute to one gets in the way, or you both work together to stun the demon, and then while he's stunned, then you have plenty of time to get in the car. There should be some sort of counterplay that the demon has for that. And I think by just making it longer to get into it, that would be a big step, and that would kind of help out the early game. The mid game, that I have a few things here. I think that in order to avoid the getting stun locked all the time, I think that after you're recovering from being stunned, if you just were in a possessed unit and you decided that you were going to wait it out and just eat all these attacks after you being stunned for this time, you should have a couple seconds of balance bar immunity, of where you do not take any balance bar damage at all for a few seconds after being stunned. That's a simple solution to prevent people from getting stun locked all the time. You stunned him, great. Now you got to pour as much damage as possible on him. Okay, he's recovered from that. Everybody's got to back the fuck off. Sorry for my language. Back off. And start actually fighting him, and then he's got a chance to actually play for a few seconds. Or maybe get rid of those recovery animations. That'd be kind of fun. You know, get rid of the whole, that kind of stuff. Another thing would be trying to make AoEs worth it. I know I talked about AoEs earlier, and I think a way to doing that would be take away, and I know I'm going to get a lot of pushback for this one, but take away the AoE healing that supports give with chimps. I think that if you made it to where supports, when they drink a chimps, would apply that healing to the lowest health ally that's nearby also. So where they got healed, and and whoever is the most injured gets healed, but not everybody. That would make it to where AoEs were a bit more viable, right? Because that means some of my damage is going to stick. If I'm in a position where I'm AoEing or splitting my damage, it's going to take multiple chimps for the supports to heal up the team, or they can use their abilities. It would make the med kit a lot more viable, things like that. And honestly, I think this would be a pretty good change. I think that this should be something that should be seriously considered. Like, really stop and think about those scenarios for a while, and it would change the way that survivors would have to play against certain demons. So demons that were really good at AoEing, or demons that really put a lot of points into their AoEs. Having the minions not insta-die when you release from them would be a great one as well. Because that would give us another strategy where, say I'm in a possessed elite and I'm swinging and everybody dogpiled on me and they're stunned. Well, I release and I'm going to go get somebody else, but that demon, that elite is still there. He's still a threat that they have to stop and hit. He's not possessed anymore. It's going to be quicker for them to drop, but they can't just ignore it because they still hurt. That would be something. It wouldn't be a great solution, but it'd be something. Another one that would be awesome would be that would be helpful both in the mid game and at the end game, was give us an option to instant possess units as we summon them, like the boss does. Whenever you summon the boss, you're instantly in that guy as soon as he's coming out of the portal. Give us some combination of button pushing that we can do to where it costs more energy, obviously, but we summon a portal basic or a portal elite, and we're instantly summoning or possessing one of those 2 units, or 3 units, or a unit that's coming out of it. That way they're not instant dying the moment they come out, especially at book phase, or, it just gives us another option, because whenever we go to summon a portal, is that going to be the demon? Is he going to possess that, or is he coming over here? It gives us more options for more counterplay. Another thing would be allowing for more combos for demons. Right now, all attacks are super easy to dodge because all the attacks have very set animations that are very easy to see, and they have very specific strings. And if we fuck those strings up, we stop and have to do recovery. We have to do a little dance as the puppeteer, which every puppeteer main is like screaming for, please get rid of those dances. Or the attacks, there's very little variation. We can kind of like some of them, like with the skeleton basics, I can go like light, heavy, light, Warcry. I've got a little bit I can do with them, but there's other ones like Warlord basics, no combos, no variation of attacks, super easy to dodge. Warlord Elite has like a 9-hit combo that I'm sure that if people at Saber really looked at it, they probably would take it away, because every time we have any kind of huge combo, they seem to want to take it away, and I wish they wouldn't. I wish they would give us more attack variations. That way we actually had a way to fight. Finishers. I talked about finishers earlier. Finishers, most people think that finishers should have some sort of stamina cost, and that's a good solution. Having them have a stamina cost or a cooldown would be good. I think that would be a nice solution for that. While I'm on the subject of finishers, though, all of the boss units, we'll talk about that for a second. All the boss units have a move that says, in the description, this attack cannot be dodged. All of them can be dodged. Not only with just normal dodge, but just by walking backwards, because the animation gets stuck on something, or you're doing this over and over again, or just whatever. They're so frustrating. And they are our best tool for dealing with people who are off on their own, because it's supposed to punish that. It's supposed to punish people who are on their own, because it's supposed to be something that grabs you, does a bunch of damage, but it can be stopped if I take any damage, right? So someone needs to come rescue you, or you're going to take a bunch of damage, so you need to stay with your team, except it doesn't work that way. Everything in this world interrupts this thing. if you're bleeding for any reason from Kelly or from, I'm blanking on her name, the Evil Dead remake, her bleed effect that she has. Mia, that's it. If you're bleeding for any reason, or if a shield busts because of its Warrior Ash, or you take shield reflection damage from Henry, if you take a point of damage at all, your grab gets immediately interrupted, and you stop and you shake your head and whatever else. And that's if you were lucky enough to actually land the grab. I think that all of those grabs should work like finishers do, which is if it lights up to where I can use it and I hit the button, it happens, just like finishers. It locks me into an animation that I start doing, and then if you can still make it to where other people hit you, it knocks you out of it, fine. But make it to where they're more consistently be able to use. That'd be cool. That'd be awesome. But anyways, that's a little off subject. It's a little tangent here. We're still talking about finishers for survivors. Another one that I think, other than just making it cost something, is get rid of non-finishing finishers. I know for a lot of people they'd be like, what? So you can do a finisher anytime that someone's balance bar is gone, whether or not that's going to kill them. So sometimes they'll lock them into like some kind of like weird attack. Though honestly, those animations aren't really that great. They don't do much other than make you invincible over and over again. They don't do it like support mains especially use these a lot. They'll use some sort of balance bar weapon, and they can go up to and milk one minion, one basic, over and over again for all kinds of iframes just by knocking his balance bar away and then going into a stupid little iframe animation. Get rid of those. I think a finisher should only happen if it would actually finish them. Novel concept. Make it to where a finisher only shows up and lights up if it would actually finish the unit. That'd be cool. Fear. We talked about fear and how that's usually not worth it, to where they don't drop, where people just drop their weapons, or people like me that aren't Survivor, that don't play a lot of Survivor and aren't good at being a Survivor, or you finally do, and you're like, I'm playing Mia and she's going to hit so hard, or I'm playing this Kelly and I'm going to try and dodge and shoot and put the bleeds on them, only they just, all of them whip out, like they either stun you all the time by run kicking you, or they whip out their pistol or their nail gun and just chain stun you and whatever. I don't like possessing survivors. It's frustrating. But fear should be worth it for other reasons too. Fear, in my opinion, should apply, if you have high fear, it should apply debuffs to you, right? It should lower the amount of damage that you do. It should make it to where you have a shaky aim when you're trying to aim with stuff, so it'll be harder to hit headshots because you're trembling, right? Stuff like that. To where there's more incentive for me to get your fear high, and there's more incentive for you to have to stop and deal with that and get your fear back down, and make you have to take time to do that. That would give us more play options, right? Because then it might be worth it for me to demon dash people all the time or whatever. Get to take perks to make my demon dash quicker or better or whatever. Because whenever you have high fear, you suck, because you have to do something about that. I think that would be an interesting concept, and it would give us another reason to take some of those fear-related perks that we have in our trees that are mostly worthless. And then fear, whenever someone is off on their own, is super worthless, because there's no point in possessing people unless you just want to waste some of their ammo, and that's if they didn't drop their gun in time. Because if you possess someone by themselves, then you literally just have to the only thing that you do is the automatic damage, because whenever you possess someone and your possession ends, they take damage based on how long you were in it. And so you have to wait and let your energy run all the way down, and maybe run them off somewhere and, waste a bunch of time. In the meantime, the rest of their team is killing the Dark Ones, or, they're doing an objective or whatever else. And you have to invest a bunch of time into it. And I think that there should be an option there to make it to where if you catch someone on their own, get their fear high, you can punish them for this. Because people shouldn't be off on their own. We talked about this earlier. You should be able to punish people for being off on their own. And a way to do that would be getting their fear maxed, possessing them, and then have an option. Maybe have it a long channel. Have it be sort of like the release, like a long channel to release thing that where you burst out of them somehow, like you're depossessing, but violently depossessing, and it uses all your energy, and it just basically quickens that process of, instead of just waiting for it to go all the way down and end, it just goes. It takes a second to channel, and you'll get stunned if you get hit or anything by anybody else. So they have ways to counter this, or not stunned, but it interrupts the process, I should say. To where you just use all your energy, and they take damage, bonus damage based on that. So it's kind of like, you channeling your inner, or violently erupting from them or something, or chewing on their arm. Like a lot of people have talked about how whenever you're possessing people, if you can possess people and have them shoot other people, then why couldn't you have them shoot themselves or stab themselves or whatever else? We don't want to go down that road. It's a bit too dark. Suicide's nothing to put into a game, right? And it is talked about in some horror games, but I don't think it has any place in Evil Dead. So, and we don't want to go down that road. But you could do something that fits the more comical nature of Evil Dead, and then maybe do like a channeled thing where they're like chewing on their arm, like how you have an animation where you're standing still and doing that, and the whole time you're doing that, they're taking damage. And if you let them do that long enough, it'll down that survivor. And then the other people can interrupt it. These are all things that you could do to really make the fear system a little bit more worth it, in my opinion. Okay. In game, let us put more traps around the dark ones. Put traps around the dark ones. That's a simple one. Put some traps around the dark ones. That'd be great. Or crazy concept. Give us the ability to place traps anywhere. Not the proximity portals, but traps. That'd be cool. But that's crazy talk. That would take a shitload to program, I'm sure. Cars. Another one about cars. I talked about cars earlier, but this one has more to do with the convoy system, on how people like there's no really way to intercept people because they just stand around it. One that I think that you probably could implement, or they probably could implement, is, so the survivors have this like stumble animation, this really long stumble animation that they have, that you see like whenever you run and kick a possessed survivor, you see them, they have this really long like stumble animation. Have that happen if you possess a car and there's people in it. Make it to where they're ejected from the car. They pop out of the car and they do that stumble animation away from it. That way you as the demon have a chance to actually do something with that car before they just stand around it. That's a pretty simple solution to that one, in my opinion. They still, will have enough time to react a little bit, pull out weapons and shoot the car, or possibly if they have if they're in the right spot with melee weapons, they could probably also hit it as well, but that would be a little bit tougher. But or have them stumble when they're hit by the car, which makes sense because you're getting hit by a car. It should do more than just do a little bit of damage and you just stand there. It should at least cause you to do that, have to start staggering away from it because you're getting hit by a freaking car. And that would give us a chance to try to bulldoze through you. If I have, say I have a ton of energy and I possess this car and I have more energy left over, let me hit you, I lose some energy, you take some damage, and boom, I'm off with the car. And your teammates had a chance to hit it a couple times too. Whatever. Or one that's been talked about for a long time is give us a way to blow them up. Give us a channel that we can do, that we're in there, that just causes the car to get destroyed. Don't make us have to become experts at flipping cars or high centering them on the specific pieces of terrain. That's stupid. As far as the end game, the dagger phase, I think a simple solution to make, or not the dagger phase, the dark ones. I think a simple solution to make it to where they can't be soloed is make it to where you have to hold still to use the dagger. While you're channeling the dagger, you have to hold still. That way, the demon has a way to deal with that. If I summon a bunch of dudes there, and you have to stop beaming the dark ones because they're going to hit you and interrupt that. So you have to stop and kill the stuff. You can't just wiggle back and forth and avoid all the fireballs. You're channeling and they go to fireball you. You got to stop channeling and dodge that sucker. Stuff like that. That would be a simple one and a big one. If it was up to me, though, I would redesign the Dark Ones fight entirely. Now, this is Fantasyland here. Fantasyland, okay? Make it to where the end objective, first of all, it's not the big Dark Ones tower thing that you see that looks dumb, and they can see it immediately, and they go, okay, the Dark Ones is here. They know where it's at. Make it spawn, like the other ones do, a thing that they have to go up to and activate, just like anywhere else. And whenever they activate it, it starts an event. The storm immediately shrinks to that area. Well, not immediately, but quickly, rapidly shrinks to that area so that nobody wants to activate that without the rest of their team there. The whole team needs to gather. Otherwise, they're fucked. The whole thing shortens down. And then the dark ones show up on the outskirts of this or randomly in it. They'll pop up. How they do, they come up out, and then they'll pick someone and shoot at them, or maybe do a small AoE, not a full zone AoE, but a small AoE around, and then zoom back out again and pop up somewhere else, and keep doing that, and make it to where you don't fight the Dark Ones at all. The Dark Ones are just there as an extra added threat to the final boss fight against the demon, to where it's still about the demon. You have to play against the demon. There's no book that shows up, because the book is the object that they had that they clicked on, and that's just like the pages or the dagger is. And there's if they fill up the bar, they win. If they complete that objective, that they win. But the whole time, it's not the demon beating on an inanimate object. It's the demon playing against the survivors, and the survivors playing against the demon. And only it's a little bit tougher than the other two blues because of the aspect of the storm, and and maybe having the dark ones like show up as stuff. Now, I know that's probably not ever going to happen. It's not practical, but it sure does sound cool. I'd love it to happen. But anyways, let me know what you think about all of these different proposed changes. I know there was a lot of them here. It ended up being a lot longer than I wanted it to be. But I'll try to break it up into chapters, make it a bit easier for everybody. And, let me know what you think in the comments below about any of the changes, or any changes that you would change. Way to be redundant. Anything that you would change about the game. And, or do you think that it's crazy? And also, all you demon mains out there that think, hey, yes, this is not fun right now, put your comments down there. Say, hey, yeah, something needs to change. I don't know if it needs to be anything Cythe is saying, but something's got to change. And I know a lot of demon mains have been already doing that. I've seen people in their stream descriptions, no demon till patch happens, or I'm not playing demon anymore, or people are switching to other games, and it's frustrating because I want the game to succeed. I love this game. I want to keep streaming this game. I just want to have fun while I'm doing it. Anyways, thank you guys for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. See you later.